We interrupt our program with a special bulletin. An unidentified object has been spotted in orbit around the Earth.
Greetings, invaders. My name is Scott, and this is Book Invasion. Today we're going to be talking about The Outside by Ada Hoffman. And before we dive into the book, I want to talk a little bit about the author, so you can get to know them. Ada Hoffman. Ada was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at the age of 13 and is passionate about autistic self-advocacy. Her Autistic Book Party review series is devoted to in-depth discussions of autism representation in speculative fiction. Several of her own stories and poems also feature autistic characters. So that brings us to this book. So The Outside is Ada's first full-length novel. She's written a number of short stories featured in magazines and such, and she has also published a book, I think, collection of short stories as well. So The Outside features an autistic main character named Yasira Chien, and she's a scientist who is working on this revolutionary new reactor, and the book opens up to kind of opening day, and Yasira is at the unveiling party where they're going to show the power of this magnificent reactor. Now Yasira has taken over the project. Formerly she had worked with a mentor scientist named Eviana Talir, who was presumed to have died 3 years ago, and Yasira is now left with the project, and she's bringing it to fruition and launching it and showing the people the power of this mighty technology. That's where the book begins. So let me read you a bit of the synopsis so it kind of encompasses what the tone and the feeling of the book is. Autistic scientist Yasira Chien has developed a radical new energy drive that could change the future of humanity. But when she activates it, reality warps, destroying the space station and everyone aboard. The AI gods who rule the galaxy declare her work heretical, and Yasira is abducted by their agents. Instead of simply executing her, they offer mercy, if she'll help them hunt down a bigger target, her own mysterious, vanished mentor. With her homeworld's fate in the balance, Yasira must choose who to trust, the gods and their ruthless post-human angels, or the rebel scientist whose unorthodox mathematics could turn her world inside out. In the author's own pitch of this book, she writes, a suspenseful space opera with some totally weird, surreal, cosmic horror mixed in, a whole bunch of strong female/queer/disabled characters, genuinely difficult moral quandaries, and empathy winning, which is accurate. It is great. And I thought my summary of the book in 2 words or 3 words would be The Expanse meets Annihilation. The book or the movie Annihilation. It's set in space, but then all of a sudden you have these reality warping little flashes and flickers, and you can't really explain it, but on like a space station. It was really interesting. So I want to give you a bit of a jargon warning. So going into the book, in the beginning, but it dies down, there is a bit of technical sci-fi jargon such as quantum metaphysics, gravity fields, vacuum energy, all that kind of things when she's kind of describing what this reactor does. But that really tones down and dies down as the book goes on. So I don't want you to feel afraid or feel intimidated by that, because really the brain twisting part of this book is what's known as the outside. It's kind of the unexplored space, the outside of the known explored galaxy. That's the part where it gets kind of tricky, and there's no scientific explanation for that. It's just things don't hold their physical form, and then they start bending and blossoming and twisting around. It's not something you need to have mathematical rocket scientist type knowledge for. So in the beginning it talks about quantum mechanics, blah blah blah, that stuff. I really don't like hard sci-fi like that where it goes into details about the technical aspects. I was able to get through it just fine, and as the book goes on, it turns into more of a cat and mouse type of game, and there's not really a lot of laid on thick scientific things. So just a jargon warning, when you go into the book, it gets better. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. So The Outside takes place in a world where AI have kind of ruled and taken over the role of the gods. There was a brief few moments in the book in the very beginning where it talks about this Morlock War. So it flashes back and it mentions it a few times in the book, but it doesn't go into depth, that after the Morlock War, somebody had taken away all of the computers and technology, and anything bigger than a wristwatch was deemed heretical, and it was heresy against the gods. So out of this Morlock War, which is still kind of a mystery, there had formed these AI gods, and there are different factions of them, which I thought were really interesting. There are the Alethians, which are kind of like the knowledge seekers, and then there are Nemesis, who are the enforcers and the punishers, and they track down heresy and people performing heretical deeds, and they punish them. And then there are people who can devote their soul or their knowledge to these gods, so that when they die, I think it was the AI gods or the angels or something, kind of suck up their consciousness and their knowledge into their cloud, or whatever you want to call it. So I thought that was really interesting. I like the different factions of that. And it doesn't go into very much detail as far as religion goes, as people worship one or the other. There are angels, which are augmented humans with augmented technology built into them, and those are kind of the enforcers of the gods to kind of go and do their bidding, so to speak. So I thought that was a really cool touch of kind of a bit of fantasy with sci-fi, but it doesn't go into like a deep dive into fantasy realms and things like that. The only part of it is kind of the deity and how that works, but it's really rooted in sci-fi, so it doesn't stray too far from the sci-fi spectrum. I thought that was really cool. And so the book follows Ysera, this autistic scientist who's kind of struggling with the not knowing and yet not understanding what's going on and why this disaster happened with the reactor. But then that uncovers as she's being captured and held captive by Nemesis, essentially the bad guys. She kind of helps them track down her mentor, Eviana Talir. And so it follows Ysera's quest to kind of track down and find out where her mentor has gone by reading previous, like, scribbled crazy notebooks and things like that. And her decision on whether or not she should trust her captors, as far as, you know, if she gives them what they want, are they going to let her go? Or are they just going to kill her or toss her off into space? So should she cooperate with her captors, or as she's unveiling all of this new knowledge about her mentor, should she kind of weasel her way out of being held captive and find a way where she can lie to them and sneak her way out? So that's kind of the bit of a cat and mouse quandary, the moral quandaries that's going on in this book. As Ysera doesn't know whether or not she just should be a willing participant or try to weasel her way out of it. And there is, she kind of has a piece in the game where there's a female romance in the book, where she has kind of a loved one back on her home planet, which is being threatened by this outside, essentially, and she needs to find a way to stop it. And so that is kind of her driving force as well, to save the ones that she loves by helping track down what is the cause of all this outside technology. So what is the outside? So in the book, the outside is kind of described as the unknown, where nothing is real. Everything is a lie. Time is a lie. Space is a lie. All of those concepts don't hold true in the outside. So physics and gravity and all those other kind of things that are holding our world together don't exist in the outside, and that outside kind of overlaps with planets or with people, and they die and disappear, and it's not a good thing. So Ysera's journey is kind of to prevent that from happening, find a way to stop that, and so that's where this book takes place, is how do we prevent this from happening? How do we track down this scientist, Eviana Talir, and should Ysera participate in it, or should she not? So I thought the book was really cool. I thought it was a bit of cosmic horror meets sci-fi, a bit of I thought of it like The Expanse meets Annihilation, with a bit of a mad scientist twist in it, and then their AI gods. So that was really cool. I like those type of things were really interesting to me. Plus, an autistic main character was a different feel. So I felt like this book was very fresh and original. I didn't feel like it regurgitated, common space opera tropes. There's not a ragtag crew of things. There is a defined faction of kind of these people who want to get what they want, and then the player of the game is in a moral quandary of, do I do what they want or do I do what I want? So it was really cool and interesting. I enjoyed it. My buddy read this book with Rachel from Shades of Orange and Jason from Jason's Weird Reads. I am eager to see your reviews as well. So that was The Outside by Ada Hoffman. Go check it out. It was pretty cool. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. See you later. Bye-bye.